but I dreamt we were so beautiful and strong. Does it when you don't get down?
Car's on fire, and there's no driver at the wheel.
You're listening to Art Affairs, episode 100. Today I'll be talking to Nychos. Alright, so my name is Michael Faith, and this is Art Affairs. And whoa, we are back! It feels like it's been so long. You know, at the point where I wrapped on episode 99, I was not sure if there would be any more episodes. But here we are. I'm kind of just keeping things simple for now, and not putting too much pressure on myself to put something out on a regular basis like I did before. So I'm not sure how often new shows will come out after this, but I do want to keep trying to make new episodes as I have the time and energy. So if you listened to the show before and have stuck with me up until now, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And for those who have never listened before, welcome. Art Affairs is my attempt at shining a spotlight on the many wonderful people that make up this amazing art community, featuring conversations with artists, gallerists, curators, telling their stories. You can dig through previous episodes, complete with show notes, at artaffairs.podcast.com, but the best way to stay plugged in is to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And because of the uncertainty around how frequently new shows will come out, I haven't reopened my Patreon. If anybody is interested in me opening the old Patreon, despite the infrequency of episodes, do let me know. I'm certainly open to the idea. I just haven't quite decided whether or not to do that yet. As before, you can always connect with the show on Instagram at Art Affairs Podcast. All right, so today's guest is artist Nychos. Nychos is most well known for the dissection and anatomical murals he's painted all over the world. But well before he became a globe-trotting professional painter and mural artist, he grew up in a traditional Austrian hunting family. We talk about his experience growing up in that culture on the show, and how that later informed and fed into the style that put him on the map. We also talk about the big life events that have motivated significant changes in the themes of his work, the period of exploration and discovery that he's entered into lately, and a whole lot more. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Nychos. Nick, welcome to the show, man. It's so good to have you on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So I generally like to start by diving into your background a little bit. And I know that you were born and grew up in Bruck-an-der-Mur. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I believe that's a part of Styria, Austria, which is like in the southeastern part of the country. An area that I think is called the Green Heart of Austria because of just like all the nature that you had around you. Was that what your experience was like growing up there? Were you really surrounded by nature, or was it more of an urban or mixed environment?
Mixed. I would say, I'm born in Bruck, but I was only born there, so I have been there maybe twice after. But that's like, Bruck is a little bit more further into the Alps, away from the city called Graz, which is the second biggest city in Austria. And so my first 3 years, my family lived in Graz, and my grandparents are from another city a little bit up north towards Vienna, called Hartberg. And that's even more countryside, but it looks like the Shire from Lord of the Rings in the end.
Oh, nice.
It's just meadows and forests, and that's all there is. And it's like 20 minutes away from the Hungarian border. the Iron Curtain, yeah. And then like when I was 3 years old, we moved to Vienna for 2 years. So I had like early on already like a good amount of urban city life experience before my family, before we moved back to the countryside, to Hartberg. Then I spent a few years there, and then back to Graz for art school or graphic design major school. And yeah, then that's where I got into graffiti. And then I had to get out as far away as possible, and I ended up in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, take me the furthest away.
The opposite side of the world.
Yes. I was like, New York is not far enough. Los Angeles, not far enough. Let's go further. I remember that really vividly, because now living in LA, I was like, I remember I almost moved to LA back then, and then I decided to go to Australia. So, and then when I came back from Australia, I think I was 22, I was like, okay, I can't be here anymore. I need to go to Vienna.
Awesome. So yeah, a mixture of like nature and urban environment. What kind of work did your parents do? Did they do anything creative? Were they artistic in any way?
My dad is a builder. My mom is an architect. I mean, it is creative in a certain way, for sure. Nothing I wanted to tap into. That was pretty clear very early on. But I would say that the basis of it and how I draw and how I see is definitely connected to an architectural background, like you know, how you envision things in the 3D space. It's like I can see where I have that from, the analytical mind in that sense.
Was that something that you recognized like after the fact, like reflecting back on your life, something you just recognized, or did you know that in the moment that, hey, this is something that I learned from my mom?
I mean, I knew I had that skill forever. It's interesting because when I was a kid, my mom always took me to the architecture classes on a university campus in Graz, and so I was always surrounded by a bunch of people drawing geometric stuff, and I was just playing and painting there in some corner. So I think at some point it was just obvious. It wasn't even a question. It was just there. But the question is more like, do I have it from my mom or do I have it from my dad? Now, today, like later on, I understood that I think I have a lot from my dad, actually,
really?
In that sense. Even though my mom is the architect, it's like how to see things and visualize things and in a three-dimensional space, and like being able to download that, and also like let's just say like look at a floor plan and have it all like mapped out in a 3D space like within seconds. It's something I have from my dad. There's like this funny story my mom keeps telling. It's I think I was maybe 10 years old or a little older maybe, but she was on the computer working on some plan, and I remember I just woke up and was on my way through her office to her bathroom. And I was just like, oh, okay. And she's like, look what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at the screen. I think it was at least 12 already, but I looked at the screen and was like, well, that's great. But the whole staircase is completely built in the wrong way that doesn't go anywhere. And I just kept walking and didn't think about it anymore. And she said she looked at the screen and she's like, damn, he's right. It's like, how did I miss this? Yeah. So it's that's a fun story.
That's amazing.
From the past.
Yeah, and one thing that I've read a lot and heard you talk about in interviews in the past was that Austria, and specifically your family, has a strong hunting culture. Like that's kind of ingrained within the culture of Austria. And that's something I didn't realize. I didn't recognize that was such an intimate or like an integral part of the like Austrian experience. Tell me a little bit about that. Was that something that you feel like you had around you a lot growing up?
All the time, always. It's like you're born into it, and you know, like when you think of an Austrian, the classic Austrian, he has that hat on and those lederhosen. You know, those lederhosen, those people wear those lederhosen only because they go hunting. It's like
Ah.
I see. So this is for me the only perspective. It was like, okay, this is always around because the hunting culture is so ingrained into it's actually the main culture. I would say, like, I feel like people connected or used to connect through the hunting experience, and so like still today, my grandma knows people because, like, from far away, I run into them for business, and I'm like, oh, I know this guy's grandfather because he used to hunt with your great grandfather, and I'm like, what, But then you realize it's a way of coming together. Yes, those people go into the woods together and maybe chase some deer out and then kill it, but like the main reason is to eat and drink and drink and drink more and drink and be friends with everyone in the country. So it's the old version of Instagram, I guess. It's like something that it's weird.
Yeah, so there's like a real community building aspect to it.
Yeah, and like people have more respect for people in business as soon as they know what wild hunters they are too, and what good shots they are. It's like it's weird, but it is.
That's interesting. I had no idea.
People know each other. It's like, oh, this guy is a crazy hunter. Yeah. This is so. In the end, like Austrians, like there are 8 million, throughout those mountain ranges. 8 million of us. And that's, to me, that's also weird because now I live in LA and that's like half of Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah.
I look at it as a different thing in the sense of it's like a tiny bubble, and the perception of reality in like a much tinier bubble than any other bubble in America.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess it puts things in perspective a bit.
Yes, and it's hard to understand for Austrians how life would be in California, for example. It's like, so it's there are just those old traditional ways of connecting, and for me personally, it was my grandfather took me on hunting missions. My dad, early on, my dad, I think I was 3 years old. I was with him when he dissected a deer the first time, and I was there. And I was like, holy shit. This is visually already intense, and the smell is crazy. And but it gave me like this early insight, or let's say, from my perspective now, I would say it triggered something which I felt connected to. And I mean, I was 3 years old. That means I was like, oh, this is how a body works, And there was no, not even a tiny, like, I was pretty convinced that if a deer works like this, then it must be very similar to a human too. That also means, like, at some point, even earlier, in the age of 2 or whatever, I must have asked myself, I was like, how does this meat vessel work here? Like this thing which seems to hurt.
Yeah. It's interesting that you got that like awakening that early, that you were that young and was already thinking about like how bodies function in that way. Just to have that exposure so early on must have left an imprint on you.
Yeah, I feel like to a certain degree, I understand now that I must have been born with some deeper understanding already. There's many theories about this, but there's like, we talk about younger souls and older souls and whatever. And I was also in my second or third year. I think when I was 3 years old, I was very sick a lot too. So I feel like even though you're very young, a lot of questions about existence and life already came up really quickly. Like really early, so all this punched me right in the face very, very early in life. I feel like it only started to settle down and get a little easier and more fun and normal when I was like 4 or 5, and I remember that was kind of the time when Chernobyl happened.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I remember there was not me much going out either. Like going outside was not a thing at that time. So it was a lot just inside painting and drawing,
Yeah. So, like, I guess, how did you get that creative spark? Was it being exposed to the kinds of things that your mom and dad were doing? Did you have other outlets that triggered that interest in you?
So this is funny. One would expect that it has to do with your parents, and like with anyone that's like, it's like, oh yeah, my parents did this, that's why. And it's like, yes, I mean, my parents had an understanding, but it's not that they lived that really, like it was, my mom was still about to like find herself in this mess of who am I even, and my dad was kind of like forced through being the firstborn in a generational business, so he had to like take over my grandfather's job and develop that further. And since I'm the firstborn, I was supposed to do that too. And then my parents already knew when I was born. I was like, he is not going to do that. He's on a different level, different vibration. He's like, I feel like till I was like 14, they were still debating. And then I was like, no, I'm going into like some sort of art school. Like, I don't want to do anything else. And I feel like to my parents that was pretty clear early on, but they didn't know because, again, like we're talking about, the culture is so deeply rooted in business and in this hunting world, and then in very traditional stuff, and then like low-key still trying to maneuver out of the traumatic experience of the Second World War, and of a generation which didn't even like digest the First World War, so it's like, so my great grandparents, oh my fucking hell, these people. Like, I just recently saw photos. I'm like, how do I relate? So it's like, oh my God, this is like completely. I mean, the world has changed so many times. Luckily, humanity has changed, right? So I can only see now by doing more research into it, but also like meditating on it quite a lot and observing a lot, and that where I have probably picked certain parts in for me, from which great grandfather or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, I can relate to this and that, and till I was like 14, I didn't know shit, and only like 2 years into art school, I was also like, oh, maybe I really dedicate my life to drawing comics. And because even as a 12-year-old, I had a moment where I was like, I want to do animation movies. I want to go, the only thing we had pre-internet was like, oh, let's, maybe I work for Disney one day or whatever, So I was already like slowly going into that direction. And then I realized, okay, graphic design is interesting, but it's not my jam either. What I want to do is illustration, if anything. And Photoshop wasn't even really, it was just coming out. When I was third year in school, I already had 2 years of graphic design, just basic stuff, and like far away from any Photoshop rendering. But then all of a sudden we had the very first Apple computers in color,
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit, now we're going to get deeper into this. And so I had to teach Illustrator, for example, to myself after school, because that was not even really taught in school back then. But that is also something I didn't really want to do. So I took some extra painting classes.
So your major in college was, or your major in art school was graphic design, but then you also did painting and drawing on the side?
So the system was kind of set up in Austria. It's different. So it is kind of like college, but it is earlier on. So it's kind of like a hybrid between high school and college, I would say, like from an American perspective. But my major was in graphic design, and I just added some painting classes for myself, just for fun, and everything else I did. I remember like marketing classes or advertising classes. I just spent drawing because I was like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. This is stupid. So I was just drawing all the time. So it was pretty clear where I was going into more and more. And then on some point, of course, I picked up. Then there were like a bunch of graffiti people, maybe like 5 in the whole city, and then it was like, ooh. And when you're like 17 and you have too much energy just to sit around and draw all the time, and you're asking for like action in your life and some excitement next to school and girls, then graffiti is a thing. And
So were these people that you met people that you were going to school with?
Yeah. Or we're about to leave school and they were already like, oh my God, you're like, like your graffiti or your art looks great. And so I was already a big fan of one of those guys. And he was also getting into tattoos and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's cartoony. It has a message. It looks wild, it's like it had tattoo references in it. So I was nerding out big time on his work, and he was only like 4 years older than me, or 5. And he kind of became my like low-key mentor back then.
That's amazing. So, your parents were originally planning, well, you were firstborn in your family and was destined to take over the family business, and then decided that, hey, that's not probably for me. I'm going to go into art. What did your parents think about that? Did they support that decision, or?
Yes and no. I think it was hard for them, but they did support it. So when I finally decided to go to art school, I think it was a tough one for my dad, because the overall perception is also like, oh, he's going to be an artist. Well, he's not ever gonna make money, and it's like that's also Europe. That's all over Europe. It's probably also in America. I feel like that has changed a little bit. But in Europe, it's still like people think like, oh, you're doing art. That means you might gonna make some money when you're dead, And I remember a lot of like days where I had to say, I was like, to tell my dad, like, you will see if I'm your age. When I'm your age, I will make as much money as you do. And he was laughing at me. But there was always this like slight subconscious disbelief, I would say, distrust also. But then there was also like a lot of support, because there was, okay, he it's like a different thing if you see the talent or like the motivation and the hard work a person puts in, and then it's pretty clear this is the path. But then you on your own can't see the path because you don't have the experience. So there like from your perception of how the world works, there's no way that path can go anywhere, because you don't know how. But the thing is, just because you don't know doesn't mean anything, And it's literally on that person with the path to figure it out. I guess that's a huge, beautiful magic about life.
Yeah.
Our parents just need to let us do our thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good that they ultimately, even though they had like their own disbeliefs, they still, supported your journey, I guess, to some degree, which sounds good.
Yes. No, totally. They also always come out for my shows and whatever, and that's all great. But even then, it's like there's still, I can tell, and I can also I feel that there's still something vibrating with it. Where it's like, yeah, let's see, And I'm like, come on, I run a company with 7 people. Right. Who does that? And I paint. I have a studio in Vienna. I have a studio in Los Angeles. I live here, and that's the next thing. Coming back to the understanding, it's like you don't know this. Like if you're Austrian living in an Austrian bubble, you don't know what's going on. You cannot understand what's going on here. So it's like me going home and trying to like tell them what's going on is like.
I don't know. I think it's the like universal experience. It is very hard to impress your parents, no matter where you come from or what part of the world.
Yes. No, they are super proud and stuff, and I think they they were not able to imagine like where it already went for me, and that's already really good, really cool, to see that they see is like, okay, it has gone like way further than they were thinking it would, and I'm like, and I tell them, look, I only just started. You need to understand, I just started.
No, that's awesome. So like while you were getting started, getting exposure to graffiti and like joining some of your peers out in the street, did you get in any kind of trouble or get caught up with the law, police? Was it strict in the area that you were in?
Yeah, of course. Today I see it as part of the job. Sure. Somehow it's part of the job description. Bullshit can happen all the time. But as a 17-year-old, when I started, I didn't know how quickly that can go. And let's just say I didn't have the ninja skills yet. And like when you're a young kid getting into graffiti, you're just cool. You're tagging around. You're tagging also the dumbest things. I remember I tagged a car once back then. I got busted for it. And I didn't tell my parents, and it came out much later. So, it was always more. Again, it was always more about, like, there was more fear of my family finding out than like the trouble with the cops. but that was like that was early on, and then I painted a rooftop of a building which had like 16 floors and 16 stories high, and there's this rooftop on top, and it's pretty much one of the biggest buildings in Graz back then. And
wow!
I painted that, and then I climbed back down on the outside of the building. It was like completely nuts, And then the security was standing there and like chasing me, and then like kind of like got really physically aggressive, and I passed out while he literally hammered his claws into my throat.
Wow.
Yeah. Jeez. And my friend who was with me, actually, he kicked him off me, and so I could actually breathe again. So yes, so a lot of really fucked up shit happened. And also when I really started when I was going to Australia. And like, first of all, the Australians are very different people, and so I was there, culture shock, first time out of the country. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Not barely even speaking English back then. And then getting into graffiti with some locals there and starting to, paint trains in Sydney. It was insanity, complete insanity. And the Australians are also like always on the edge. They always want, like, it almost felt like the energy was always calling for some sort of like trouble, in the sense we always have enemy contact somehow. So I got arrested in Australia too, and they had to let me go because, so much. I mean, this is just really the beginning of it all. It's like you start learning things, but with learning all the shitty things, and what you understand is like, oh, you can't like do it that way. You also have like a great time and meet great people, and I had like a mission in Australia where we always got killed on a daytime spray paint train mission, like 22 years ago or something, and one of those guys were Soffels, for example. Yeah, so that's how I met Soffels. Really?
Just like jumping trains?
Yes. We were 22 years old.
Amazing. So during this part of your life, when you moved to Australia and were doing your graffiti work on the side, what were you doing to pay the bills? Like, what kind of work were you doing while you're getting your art practice started?
The thing is, I had 6 years of graphic design school, and and I was kind of like frustrated. I also had some other health things going on at this time, and I didn't really know where to go. And my parents, at some point, were like, "Look, we do understand the issue here, and now you have finished school, and we know that it's hard to really find your place in life, especially at the age of 20 or 19. It's like, I had no idea. But so they were like, you know what, we pay like 1 year of going abroad, and doesn't mean like I lived like I lived like a dog in Australia, but mainly because I had to also like, when you buy spray cans and then you look at your wallet and it's like, oh shit, I can literally eat like 7-Eleven for like 2 weeks now, But I went to college for English, learning English in Australia too, which was a pain in the ass, to be honest. I learned more of just hanging out with the locals. So, money was a problem. I did a bunch of like tiny like illustration and drawing things, but I think I was also mostly way too high at that time too. And that's another thing. Like I was definitely smoking too much weed, and like that was in Australia, that was a very normal thing to do back then. And and my main motivation to like why I smoked weed is to quiet my mind a little bit, and it didn't really work, but it was an attempt, because there was a lot going on which wanted out.
Mm. And so during that time of your art career, like as you were getting developed or like developing your own style, was your work very different than what it became later?
Yeah, so that just took a while. So in Australia, I had the first idea of the rabbit eye movement that came to me during that time, and I already had like glimpses of that before I left during school, but like I really started this kind of like street art project with painting rabbits all over the place, with the idea of like, oh no, this is like in my head and it's like talking to me, this being, it's like I felt a little bit like Donnie Darko, even though I haven't watched it back then. But it's like, let's say like some late puberty situation where like the subconscious really like tried to push you into a direction. And I feel like that also was a huge part of me really deciding that I'm gonna be an artist and nothing else in this life. So I was like, okay. So I had the feeling this rabbit wants to be transformed from my unconscious or my subconscious and brought into this world, into this free third dimension. And I was like, I'm gonna be the advocate of the rabbits, and that's why I called it in the end the rabbit eye movement, which made a lot of sense with what's happening in the REM phase generally, on an unconscious or subconscious or whatever level, really, in the field of existence, and how dreams talk to us, and how creativity and memory and cellular memory and how all this communicates to each other, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I gotta bring it into this dimension and start painting rabbits. And then I wanted to do more cartoon stuff and learn more about cartoons. And then I came back. I moved to Vienna. I had a girlfriend at that time. Moved in with her. I did nothing else but drawing and painting rabbits and spreading like my ideas through the city. And but it was very cartoony. It was very like, I learned a lot from like people like Steven Silver, for example, who did The Clerks, or Danny Phantom. Very cartoony, very basic, but also beautifully reduced. I was kind of done watching standard Disney cartoons and learning from that. And then I got more and more into that. And like, I feel like, at that time, the internet was really just coming more and more and more. So it was still hard for me to figure out like, who am I going to look at on the internet? Like, how do I find shit? That's so easy these days. And so it was a very like natural progression from like learning from cartoons to like figure out my own style, and then draw a lot, paint a lot of graffiti, get a feeling for color, like away from the black and white illustration, which was my main thing for many years. Because I was really like, oh, I gotta, like, before, I think on one of my very early graffiti missions, I realized I was like, I gotta learn how to draw before I start messing around with spray paint or with color, and it took a good while to like experience, like do little ventures into color situations. And then on some point, it was asking for more depth and more storytelling. And I was definitely starting to express my feelings a little bit more, and I was like, how can I like use those cartoony skills I have now, which are very humor based, and I still think humor is still very important to doesn't matter if it's just style or also message, to figure out and transmute something very serious, for example. It's like it could be serious, but you can just play with the humor. And so I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. This is it. But I feel like it must have been around 2010, 2009. So I started to do my own like little rabbit toys around 2009, I remember, and like just tried to figure out my path through how was the street art and graffiti world perceived in Europe back then, and like I met a lot of people during that time from all over, but I didn't travel too much back then, and then I went through this breakup, and something unlocked during that time.
Oh wow!
I don't know, and it was yeah, I don't know. I was like, all this stuff where I cramped myself into like certain ideas, which things have to look like fuck it. So I started to bomb more. I was illegally way more active at that time. I started to travel more. I started to paint bigger and bigger murals. I connected with artists like Aris and other people, like who just really young, but still like pushing the graffiti thing into like more of a character related thing, and like getting bigger. So it was starting to be more of a big character on the mural situation. And that was in Europe only just coming up really big. And I felt like, okay, this is an interesting moment in time right now. So I was doing nothing else but just painting and traveling at this point. Less drawing, but the funny thing is, at that time, that was the time when the dissection stuff started to develop, and I started to cut animals apart, freestyle on walls, before I even really had an idea what I was doing.
Interesting. So was there something that sparked that change in your style?
Yeah, I don't know. I there was definitely a moment where I was like, I want to look deeper into stuff. I just don't want to like paint characters or figures or whatever. I was like, there's more to it. And that brings me back to like, how I watched my dad dissecting the deer or the boar or whatever. And I was like, oh, I know so much about it. I can look at some cartoon characters, especially when you like watch cartoons, it's like, look at those skinny legs and those big arms. That like I even when I was young, or watching the Little Mermaid or the Ninja Turtles, it's like how does it work? Like the Ninja Turtles make no sense. They make no sense in so many ways, but it's still fun. But the Little Mermaid, like me being like on this point maybe 12 years old, is like, it's clearly a love story, and like hormones were like slowly going into the direction where I'm interested into into girls and stuff. And then I'm like, oh, it's like, how would you even, if she doesn't have legs, you know? It's like, then she doesn't have a lot of other things either. And it's just kind of like me. I remember like 12 years old watching that, and I'm like, how would that even happen? So I like later on was like, I looked at her skeleton, because clearly everything, and that was part of this whole process of like how this dissection stuff really developed. It's like I look at some beings. So let's just take Ariel. Ariel is a mermaid, apparently a being which exists out there. Like we don't really fucking know, right? But she's half fish, half man. And then I see like a skeletal illustrations from other artists where the spine goes straight into the fin, and I'm immediately going like, that's bullshit. Because she still goes out there and sits on a rock.
Right.
So if she doesn't have a pelvis, she cannot sit on a rock. And if she has a fucking pelvis, that means she has a uterus. And when she has a uterus, she somewhere has a vagina. And that's how it must work. You know, like just logical, like it's just logical. So she's definitely, just by being able to sit on her butt, with her fish tail, she must have a pelvis. So it's like okay, we know that she's able to do this. That means her skeletal structure needs to like look like this. That means the skeleton is always the basis for everything. And that with that understanding, I was like, okay, here we go.
Interesting.
So that observation, I applied that on every cartoon I can come up with.
Wow. No, that's fascinating that sparked that sort of learning journey for you. At some point you started showing in a gallery setting. And so like, how did you start to transition into creating smaller works alongside the works that you were creating in the streets?
Oh, yeah. So I have to go back in my brain. I feel like, you know, as soon as I started to hang out more with international artists in Europe, like coming from the graffiti and from the mural work and stuff, I kind of like, you know, you need to meet people and you get connected. So even before I did dissection stuff, I had an international show in London at Pure Evil Gallery, which is it's a very basic gallery with like, you know, the dude just shows, he's an artist himself and he just shows what he likes. And he just asked me if I want to do a show. And that was my first international show. And it was very cartoony, very green. I painted a lot in green back then. I don't know, I didn't know why, but like at that time I was kind of the guy who paints in green all the time, you know? Which is like, it's weird because people cannot really connect to this color in arts so as much as to you know, everything needs to, especially in street art, things need to be black or white or red, you know, and like green was never really a color which was used a lot. So I was all of a sudden, there was me doing cartoony things with like slimy horror, with like scenarios with like, you know, maggots and skeletons and whatever. So that was an interesting phase because I just learned a lot. And in that phase, I started to like slice things up and like look inside of stuff and whatever. And that kind of like made it easier because I had this show in London in 2010, I believe. And then I didn't do any art show for 3 years, mainly because I opened Rabbit Eye Movement in 2012 in Vienna as a gallery and a store and like a place for the scene to meet and whatever. And like I had my own studio, so at that time I was just really just developing the dissections, and that just got a lot of attention at that point. And then I had my very first anatomy show or dissection show in Italy at Gallo Art Gallery in Torino. And Gallo is like one of, you know, he's one of the geezers. He's like, he painted a lot with the London Police back then, or with Jeremy Fish and all those that generation, like also like D-Face and all those people. So he was from that generation, and I was just a generation younger. And he invited me to come and do a show, and that's when, because that was the very first anatomy show of all this stuff like people have been seeing online, being figures dissected. I just went like this, bam, bam, bam. I was like, yes, we're having fun here. And then the same year, I had another 4 solo shows, and don't ask me how I did that.
I noticed that. I saw that on your CV. You had like 3 or 4 shows in 2013, just like boom, boom.
All solo shows. Yes, I do not know how I did that.
And I think that same year you also went to like 10 or 15 different cities to paint on walls. So like, I don't know how you had time to like sleep.
No, I get chills when I just think about it. 2000, I did not sleep much. I remember, like, I painted a lot at night too, which nobody knows. I mean, that part I didn't show anywhere. A little bit we made the documentary at this time, The Deepest Depths of the Borough. And it started in Italy, but we cut out the whole Italy part because it was too much. And, we were exploring Second World War bunkers in Italy. Like, it was crazy. There was that year I had a show in Italy, in New York, in Detroit, in Miami, and one more, and I forgot where that was. But that was my first time when I went to Detroit, painted a lot in Detroit, and then I was like, where do I go? What's next, And we were kind of like, we didn't really have a plan for a documentary. So we were like, all right, well, maybe let's go to San Francisco, And then my crew members from the Lord's crew, which I already got into Lord's crew, which is a California-based crew mostly, through the members in that crew in Austria.
Oh, nice.
So those guys were my good friends. So I already had good connections to California before I even came here. So I got there, and then I met all those guys there, and then immediately we only had like a plan of like 4 days in San Francisco. And I ended up painting a big mural, a dissected tiger in the Tenderloin, and finished that, was completely exhausted, got on the airplane, went to Los Angeles for the next mission. So this is kind of how intense 2013 was.
That's wild.
And I was on a roll back then for like 2 or 3 years like this.
Yeah. I think the next year you had 2 more solo shows. Like, it just must have been an exhausting period for you. As you started to get started in doing the dissection work, and that became a bigger part of your style and your aesthetic, was there like a research aspect to that? Like, how anatomically correct, and is it that important to you? It is important to you that the figures that you're creating dissections of like match reality? Well,
yes. So I knew that the more accurate I get, the more I learn for the artistic aspect, but also for the actual like physical body. Like I was. So this is it. I painted at night. I painted at day. I partied quite a lot at that time too. I traveled, but any time I had a break, I was just sitting somewhere in peace, researching, like buying books. Vienna is a great place in buying old books, of course. Like buying books, like going down the rabbit hole on Pinterest or anywhere. It's just like looking at bones, mostly bones, and so the research part was really important. And on some point, I decided I will make my own anatomy sheets. I draw it myself. I make my own collection of like black and white illustrations where I like define every bone, and just because I was kind of like, wait a second, how does a horse skeleton look like again? I was like, wait a second, well, how does this back bone look on the back leg? I was like, does it have like free like elements to move, or on some point it's like I want to do it myself, because then I can have my own book where I can go back and like, okay, so then I can freestyle it on the wall. But so it was definitely about getting more accurate, but then on the same time, I still wanted to keep the bouncy, like more simplistic or more like dynamic shapes in which I learned from the cartoon drawing, and like from my original style in that sense, which I developed, because so everything was not just like how I built shapes on simple cartoon characters or graffiti lettering styles or whatever. It's just like a lot of it just happened on the wall with just me moving and kind of like dancing on the wall. So I didn't want to take it too seriously, but on a certain bit you had. So finding the balance was like important, right?
Yeah.
And I also realized later on, the more accurate I went, the less fun I had with it too, and painting murals especially. But it was necessary.
That's interesting. So you created your own like reference book to use as
kind
like a guide?
To a certain degree. At some point I was like, oh God, I'm over it. So this reference book, in the end, it ends up a book about my last 10, 12, 15 years, which is still under construction. But I did the rabbit eye movement anatomy sheets, and I sold them through the web shop for many years as a limited edition. And I did, 3 years. So the first year was straight up just about the myth about my name, Nychos, where it comes, and like what it means and how it puts it together in an anatomical explanation, which is really
nice.
That was like a little, offbeat, but also a little loco, but it was fun. The second year was more, it was just about like kind of like straight up, this is the anatomy of a panther, this is anatomy of a boar, this is an anatomy of a rabbit, this is anatomy of a wolf. So really just straight up, so you can like have them next to each other, and it's like, oh, there's like the slight difference here and here. So that was cool. And the third one in 2018, I did dissections of the cartoons. So it was Bugs Bunny, Mickey. Like many people know the Mickey dissection, or the Donald dissection, and then Goofy and all this stuff. So the stuff which I think has been getting like most attention in that phase of, yeah.
Around that same time, and maybe a little bit after that, you started to also explore translucency, and like your style started to evolve yet again, still rooted in this kind of anatomical exploration, but you started adding elements to it and evolving it in a way. So like what motivated that like iteration, or all of the iterations that your style has seen over the years? Was it something that like happened organically, or was it more of like a conscious thing, like, hey, I want to try this new direction?
Yeah, I'm getting chills again just talking about it. So the translucency creeped in a very interesting way, because I remember I was painting a wall with my friend and crew member Flying Fortress, and his thing is like this cartoon bear, and we like took the cartoon bear apart, and I did the skeletal structure, and then I started to paint the organs, and then I'm like, hey, let's make her pregnant, And then, so he painted this very like sticker, like he's super famous for this sticker, this Teddy Troopers. So he painted that into my organism, and I just like, I didn't even think about it. It was just happening, in the sense of like, well, you paint that in there. I kind of sketched up the womb, and he painted it in there, and then I just faded it. With the spray, the technique of the spray can is so nice that you can just fade around, so like one edge gets sharp, and then it transitions like transparent into the thing. So I painted a 3-dimensional see-through bubble in the end. It was a bubble, and there was a little teddy baby inside. So I was like, so. So later, like down the line, maybe around around end of 2014, 15. So things were going fast at that time, like really fast. So even though I did a lot of like classic dissection things, at the same time next to it, and don't ask me how I did that either. It's like I progressed with the dissection and anatomical parts, but that the translucency thing was like coming in at the same time. So the funny thing is, like, every time, so I paint things on the canvas, so I'm always a couple of years behind on the canvas, you could say, right? So if I paint like the section of Goofy, that means I already have 2 or 3 years of painting translucency pieces on walls, you know? It's just like that. It's just weird because things develop on the wall, mostly for me. Because that's where I'm most free. That's where I'm loose. That's where I experiment. That's where things go quickly. The spray can works as fast as my mind does. The acrylic doesn't want to keep up with my mind. So this is a little bit of an issue. And patience was, of course, a bastard. I had no time for fucking around, right? So it's like, so I started on some point. I was working on my show, the Icon Show, which was only about dissecting like people or figures in the pop culture I looked up to. Like I had Mickey and Goofy and whatever, and like things which were so present in the world. But then I dissected Ozzy Osbourne, and so I all of a sudden started to be like a portrait painter. I was like, this is not my cup of tea at all. Portraits, but hey, that's what I learned something here. So I was in San Francisco. I worked on that show, but at the same time, I was also thinking about, hey, wait a second. If I can, because you think you dissect everything, and then you have this mess of like elements floating around. So I was like, it was getting a little bit too static and too medical, So I was like, how can I get into movement and to like a storytelling, and also like I have maybe like a panther and the snake going into each other and like maybe tackling each other, fighting each other, and still show all those things. And I was like, wait a second, if I can paint a bubble translucent, then I can paint anybody in a translucent way. And just from the thought process, it's like from painting, it's like, okay, like you have your base color fill in, and then you have the top rendering around, like whatever has to be rendered on top. If you change that, like you swap that base coat, but that base color out, and like use like this, still keep the silhouette in like a darker or whatever color, and put the anatomy part there, and like put the layer of the top rendering on top of it. You're only switching out the base color to the full fucking anatomy. That means you have a translucent body.
Wow.
And I'm like, so I've been like, so, but that's what my mind does, It's like just like looking at every layer of existence, kind of. So it's, and then I was like, and then the next point, what is a big thing is like painting it is where the fear comes in, because you paint this whole anatomy, you paint all those veins, you spend hours on all this stuff, and then you're gonna paint over it translucent. And like the fact is like when you put a translucent coat on it, or like hair might be not a big deal, but like just a translucent layer, if you do too much on a certain part, it's done. Or you get the angle of like a muscle or like a hand or the facial expression wrong. It's done. You have to not just repaint the face. You also have to repaint the whole anatomical part which you just messed up. So I was like sitting down with myself, and it's like it's almost like meditation. It's like understanding that it is only your fear holding you back. It's only your fear of fucking up is what holding you back. So I have a book here somewhere where it's like from back then, and this is the only sketchbook I still like have closed somewhere, because it says one thing. It says like paint the anatomical layer, dun, 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 and then like in red it says, "Have no fear of destroying things you spent hours on painting before," and like just knocking out that fear of destroying it with the translucency, completely be kind of like, I can do this. That's when the magic happened. And like, just by knowing this, it started like, I mean, sure, I fucked some up, but nothing I couldn't fix, you know? So it's like and then I called my show in Switzerland, The Translucent Fear.
Nice.
That's why, and that's the first show I had with translucent pieces. It was a very dark show, because the funny thing is, as soon as, and I realized this only now, or like a couple of years ago, I started to understand. I've been not just facing my fears on the artistic level, but also on the human level, and that anything you concern yourself inside, and you want to bring it outside. Things were getting really dark for me at the same time, you know? After like years having fun, traveling around the world, hitting so hard, doing so much, things were getting dark, mainly because I started to realize that, just deeper stuff wanted to have my attention at this time.
Well, and I'm glad you I think that's a good like segue, because I think a couple of years after that you got really sick, and I've heard you talk about this, so I don't necessarily we don't need to spend a ton of time on it, because I think you've talked about it a lot. But I know that led to like a multi-year journey of like self-discovery that ultimately culminated in you going to like a shaman and having this like real eye-opening meditative awakening that was partially motivated by your experience with psychedelics and DMT. So like, how did that ordeal and that experience flow back into your work? Did it trigger another evolution, and did you start to explore new ways of working coming out of that kind of dark period?
Yes. I mean, to go into like just even surface detail, that would be another hour of us talking. But,
right.
But I would say I only just really started to understand what's actually happening. Like from the very beginning, whatever I already told you, like from early on, I only started to really understand after this experience. It's like, and I'm not talking about the 5-MeO DMT experience per se. Yes, that has kicked me into a place beyond that reality to understand where I come from, or where we all come from. But it was also like telling me, it was like, bro, you have shit to do. You have shit to do, and that means it's time to lose fear of life, because you just died. Because that's what 5-MeO does. You're going through a death experience, and or a near-death experience, or and you leave your body to upload yourself into a place beyond, where some entities were waiting, and they were like saying like, "Finally, bro, we were waiting for you." And then when I in the months after I came back, I was in this deep integration process where I'm like, started to make connections, because you're starting to understand that life is not linear. That's the base of it. Then you start to understand that maybe, not even maybe. I mean, it's like let's say, to keep this short, anything what Jung says, for example, 100%. I can completely agree with the guy, with everything he says, because I've been there. I know where he went, and I have gone there too. So it makes sense, when people ask him like, "Well, do you believe in God?" And he says, "Well, that's an interesting question. Like back then I believed. Now I know." Because that's what 5-MeO helps you to discover, if you're open to it. It's like not everyone is open to it, and clearly we don't know if you're open to it or not. So it's that gets a very multidimensional. It's just multidimensional fuckery. But what's important for me, like just from the so-called meta-analytical perspective, is is understanding that what I do as an artist is not learning new skills. It's me remembering and reintegrating what I already knew.
Oh, interesting.
Which means it somewhere sits in the cellular memory. And the cellular memory is not just connected from your cells in your family. Like, like big saying, we are all connected. It's like, yeah, And the thing is here, like if you're open to it, you can drag it out from the deepest depths of your being. And it's like I look at things, I look at paintings, and my mind dissects those paintings, and I'm like, I know how this was done. I can apply that technique to my own, but I only need to do it first to understand how it's done for the next paintings. And it doesn't. It almost is like it doesn't really matter what it is. And then we get into this whole aspect of past lives and stuff, But the funny or the interesting part is also I understood only when you're making peace with all dark shit which rests on your soul is when you can be open to do that too. So I had to go deep into this dark stuff to first of all physically fix myself, because it's also interesting, like, just to talk about how it started. I came back from my show in New York, and I already felt like this energetic decline, which is I'm usually a very hyperactive person. Everyone is asking, how do I have this energy? And I was like, I also know how to navigate this, but on some point it was just like I felt like it was sucked out of me, and I didn't know where it went. And then I started the biggest mural I've ever done to that point in 2016. It's a big translucent serpent in green, and it's digesting a rabbit.
Oh yeah.
Just the symbolism itself. If I paint rabbits, like for 20 years until this point, or like, no, it was 12 years. Anyways, if I paint rabbits and all of a sudden I paint a massive, massive, massive mural of a translucent serpent, and the rabbit is in the gut. Just the symbolism means I'm gonna go through some deep, like it's, or and then you, like, everyone who knows a little bit deeper about, like, a little bit more about the symbolism of the snake. The snake is the symbol of the healing itself as an entity. And then it's green, and green, coming back to the color green is the color of the heart, which means it's love. So I was up there, I sketched this thing up, I started its head and its fangs, and all of a sudden it went like zzz, and I had to, like, really move. I was like, oh my God, my heart started to pump, and I had to move the lift down to the ground, and I knocked out. I blacked out, and there was no reason why.
Oh, wow.
So my friends, they found me there. The day later, I woke up and I was sick, and I had the craziest symptoms: digestive issues, coughs, headaches, all kinds of weird stuff, which, like, took me till pretty much now to work it back and understand where the root of it is. But so I had like 1.5 years. That was 16. Yeah, end of 17. No, yeah, and mid 18, I finally went to the shaman. But it was 2 years of not being able to digest anything. The pain with that was intense. So 2 years of just seeking, you would say.
Yeah,
it's like looking for doctors. All the doctors were like, "You have nothing. You have," and I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, it's not possible. And it's like, I have done all the medical things I can think of in 2 years. And then I was like, okay, so is it maybe mental, or because my body is just doing things and I don't really understand why. And And then I ended up at the shaman. I moved to I couldn't be in San Francisco anymore because it was too cold. I had no immune system. So I ended up in Los Angeles, mostly broke because the work wasn't flowing either because of me being so sick half of the time. But then I ended up at the shaman, and then I ended up doing 5-MeO DMT or Bufo alvarius. And that just showed me a lot. And it just showed me, it was like, look, those things are only coming into your life because there's a reason. Each symptom you have represents an energetic sickness you can clear out. You can heal yourself. And, that's when I started to meditate a lot and so much about understanding and introspection and like finding out what kind of weird energies are trying to like suck from you and what you're like throughout the ages or dimensions connected to. It's getting completely out of control. This is the point where we are tapping into a universe which is way deep. But then I also, and I think important for our conversation is now that I understood that painting is my way of healing it. And like a lot of things I started to see during my meditations, I started to paint. And a lot of things I felt in my tummy, I started to paint. And a lot of times I started to clear out some traumatic experiences from the past. Doesn't matter if it's in this life or in some past life or whatever. Only then because, same thing, reintegrating the like artistic skill to transmute something like through creativity into this third dimension can heal trauma. And trauma is only in the way of creativity. That's like, so we need to get rid of all that. Yeah, so every artist who tells me is like, hey, I need to suffer to be creative. And I'm like, bro, you're just holding on to something which is not you anymore. Not like, let it go.
That's interesting. Shifting gears a little bit, I guess, to talk a bit about how your process works. When you're trying to come up with ideas for new works, whether that be in the studio or to paint on a mural, how do you generally approach like ideation? Do you have any kind of like daily sketch routine or anything to develop new ideas?
See, this is the thing. And I said earlier already, like during school already, there was so much there. It was taking my attention of everything of reality that I had to like kind of bring it out. And then that's when I noticed that I had to paint and draw that it comes out. Coming back to this is now, I don't really look for ideas. They just find me anyways. And like sometimes it's actually throughout this healing process from the last years, my mind is not as crazy anymore that I'm constantly like having visions and shit, because like I have also this I know for myself is that ideas are memories. Again, cellular memory, doesn't matter, it's in the field, it's somewhere. That's also the reason why many people actually start painting similar things or similar concepts at the same time. Ideas want to like be like they find a channel. I think we artists are only the channel. So it's like I have tons of things popping in and then they disappear again and they pop in and then I'm gonna sit there. I was like, wait, what was that again? And some things don't want to go away. So they want to just stick with me. And they are like, oh, okay, so hey, idea, what's up? Idea, memory, whatever, field, message. You wanna come through me, then let's sit down and I sketch this out. And then all of a sudden I do one and then I do another 10. Because and then there are rough sketches just to like as like kind of like diary notes of like, hey, this could be fun. And then some things maybe I go back to this and I was like, oh, translucent crystal bodies. So crystallizing in like bodies in general, it's just not even just like a straight, like body shape in translucent. Maybe I just can crystallize everything and have it translucent, or just,
Yeah.
So it seems like it's always just like, it's like a purge. It's always just like the third eye is just like, so
So it's more of a matter of just like capturing that. So it's not so much as creating ideas as like capturing ideas as they're flowing through you.
It's like how many can I grab out of the field here right now? You know, what am I even physically in this third dimension even able to really bring down? And that's what I feel like a lot of artists are really like. Even, I mean, Hokusai even said when he was on his deathbed of 88, and it's like, if I could manage another 10 years, I would become a real artist. You know, and it's like, and the curse of the artist is like, you can only do so much. You know, and then you also have to, like, you know, I mean, before we said, like, I don't know how we did that or how I did that. Yeah, it's like, I didn't do anything else. I had no private life. I don't have any other hobbies. You know, there's like, now if I can manage going surfing like once a week, that's already great. You know, like if I have to go to the supermarket, my whole day is messed up. You know, so it's like this. You know, so it's like bringing balance to like, how much do I really have to do? So in the end, it's bringing balance to pretty much everything. So
I guess like the next step after the sketch phase, so you've captured 10, 15 ideas. How do you then develop those into a composition that becomes a painting or a mural? You
know, I mostly, so this is the thing with what I've been practicing my whole life, and that like, I'm still, of course, not there, because I feel like that's the journey till the end of days in one life. But as I was a kid, I was like, you know, I started drawing because I had those things in my head, and I was like, I was like, why can I not do it? I can see it, you know. So now I can do it, and then I can see it, and I see the colors already. It's like what I can see, bringing it down is the challenge. No, it's like, okay, I see this like a dark beige, dirty beige base color with like orange, blood orange backlight as a second light situation. Pretty harsh, hard light, which means we need to bring in more black. You know, like stuff like that. Or it's like, maybe it doesn't need to be black, but it could be purple. You know, and then like, this is out my mind goes like tick 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 tick, and builds the whole thing, and then it builds it to a certain degree, because I feel like it also wants me to figure some shit out directly on the canvas too. And so I don't, and then I'm like, damn, that looks better than I saw it in my head, you know. or sometimes it's like, or a lot of times it's also, I just didn't just go to get there. I was like, well, off to the next. So you generally will work directly on the painting. You're not like, you don't have a super refined sketch before you start painting. You just kind of dive right into the painting. No, a lot of times I don't. I do like, now in the paintings, I mostly, because, you know, I have an assistant, and he clearly can't follow my. I mean, the next thing is like verbally expressing it, and I have done it already at that time until I've verbally expressed what I want. So I have to like at least have like an architectural sketch of like a black and white just drawing, which can be transferred, where I can tell them, look at this. This needs to be this color. This needs to be this color. And if, you know, I mix those colors, and when you have done that, I can come in and put my magic on it, you know, and then we tackle the next fun situation together, or I'm starting to get into like gold leaf stuff right now.
Oh, wow.
Or like or gold glazing on some point during earlier this year I was like, I'm gonna paint this Japanese dragon sliced up, and but it has to be like, it has to look like this very old school illustration as the Japanese did in the Edo period, of just like browns on like like beige, like washed out paper or whatever, and just super simple. And then I sit in the meditation and I'm like, I have a lot of gold paint here. What do I do with this gold paint? And then my mind is like, why am I concerned about dumb gold paint right now? I should clear my mind. And then I'm like, wait a second. I can use this gold. And I'm like, hey, gold does not cover. I can actually gold glaze this dragon because I painted it in high contrast. And then I got up, and I unpacked my gold, and I was like, this is gonna be interesting. Like, no fear. And then it turned out great. It was quite interesting. And then I started to gold glaze things with different colors underneath and see how that looked. So it's like, it's a constant like finding thing out. It's a journey through colors. It's not just a journey of the ideas of what it means or what I draw. If it's like another split head and the skull pops out, and like gold leaf smoke comes out, it's also fun. But so it's like, there's always this sweet spot of enjoying the painting process, like then also like being happy or being on point with what the vision tells you and where you want to go, but also surrendering to the elements in the sense. Doesn't matter if it's airbrush, spray paint, brushes, whatever it does, and then also still having fun and not cramping. I felt like a lot of times when I painted the anatomical things, like the cartoon pieces, like I had one specific color for the bone. That was my prime color. Then I had a shadow color, and then I had a top render color, and then a highlight color. That was just the bone. And then I had like pots like this, and that's always going to be. But like it has become very analytical, and they all look the same. Every single anatomical structure of the cartoons, it's the same color, it's the same base, it's the same technique. It was all the same. And then at some point, I'm like, I'm so bored of myself. I'm so bored, and then it stops you of developing because you have done it a million fucking times.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is the big plan. It's like it's very much about finding out new ways of. It's not necessarily the sketch or the drawing which needs to change a lot, or the style. It's more about the ways how to go about it, and also reducing colors. I had too much going on. It was good for what it was at the time, but I'm trying to figure out how I can paint a whole anatomical piece with only like 3 colors or 4 or 5, depends. But there are ways. So it's like, that's kind of like more what I'm interested in these days. And then clearly it's not as cramped into like copying or showing the physical parts of how the body works. But even though I feel like I'm still learning so much about that, and but it's funny because the moment everything has gotten a little bit more metaphysical, and also for me and my whole process and my health situation, it is the nervous system has become way more the interesting place of.
Really?
It's not just how it makes its way through the body. It's like, like you need to see it like in this way. There's this body, and then there's the skeleton, and then there's this organism, and it all works together perfectly. And then there's this nervous system, which kind of like is able to like touch into everything and like hold it all together. And then the nervous system reaches deep with the energy flowing through the body, and it reaches deep into its cells. And here we are again. The real storytelling starts in our cells, in the cellular memory. So like now it's I feel like every artist out there ever painted something which came from deep. We say it comes from my soul. It talks to me. Yes. Why does it talk to you? Because it's something which is deep within. So yes, so this is one part that talks and that fuels a lot of ideas and concepts and stuff. And when I plan bigger murals, that is super important. but figuring out or reintegrating old technical parts or like things I have understood by looking at other artists or painters from a long time ago, I'm like, oh, it's like, I can do this with my tools. I can do it with the spray can or the airbrush or a combination with the brush, and then all I do is fading, cutting. So it almost becomes like this smooth cubistic. I have no idea how I shall describe it, but it's super interesting right now because I feel like with the dissection part, and this is probably quite interesting to hear, is with the anatomy and with dissection and with, I have only learned how to paint doing the anatomical pieces people know when, dissection of Lemmy or dissection of, all the things I have been dissecting. I feel like I've only just learned how to paint. And now I'm like on this discovering journey of like an endless of fucking endless possibilities, and I feel like I just fell into a pool of like decision making madness, like where on some point you don't really understand if any move you do with any color or whatever, actually, if it matters that much, or yes, most likely it does. But that's the difference with everything you see out there with artists, and that's why it doesn't matter, even though we all may paint the same thing. The approach of, guided by our nervous system is always going to be a different. Like one of my favorite examples always is Jorge Gonzalez Camarena. I love this guy so much with his approach and with the ideas and the colors and how he integrated the deeper understanding of the rainbow in his work, and how it just it's like, and then shapes and understanding of storytelling in with just simple elements, and I can literally feel the joy.
Nice.
Like I remember, so in the beginning, around the time I got sick and I didn't know what was going on, I went to Mexico City and I went to the Museum Bellas Artes, and one of his murals is there, and that was the first time ever. That never happened to me, but I saw it. In the moment I saw it, I had this like left and right realization what's happening. And I remember really well the energy of this painting just entered, passed somewhere through my retina into my brain, and it hit like a weird place. But like there were friends of mine from Mexico that were with me, and they saw it happening. I was like, I had to kneel down. I had to go down on my knees, and I started crying.
Wow.
And that just never happened to me. And like only like years later, 3 years ago, I went to Mexico again and checked it out. And I was like, I wanted to know how I feel about this. And then this group came in, and this dude started to explain what this painting is about. And it says it's about the liberation of the soul.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, holy fuck. Like it's been, and that back then I had no idea that this was the journey I was about to like go on, really,
So it's funny that's called Liberation of the Soul, because you have a piece in Linz that you painted on an 80-meter long wall called The Liberation of the Soul. Was that inspired by that experience?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Gonzalez Camarena was like a messenger to me in this moment. Like he went through something where he understood something much deeper, in a deeper process of an artist on a deeper spiritual awakening. Like, and I feel like every artist who truly paints his feelings or paints from his soul and can't really do anything else than that, because that's what he's meant to do, is in the end going through something like that. if he's open enough and surrenders to that. So, but that's also like, that might be written in one's experience in one lifetime, but who knows? This is past our understanding. But I knew that my job is to do the same. It's like he got the torch from somewhere, and he transformed it into his own torch, and I was like, I'm gonna pick that up and do my own version of it, and that wall in Linz. So this is like another interesting one, and I mean that's kind of like where I wanted to go to that wall in Linz. At the same time, I was studying the Mexican muralists from the 50s, and for a while, just from aesthetics, also because I understood there's a lot of coherent, deeper, an understanding there, an aesthetic understanding, which I wanted to learn more about, because I feel that very much, and I just wanted to see, it's like, how do other dudes do it? And González Camarena is, to me, the best of them. So I was also thinking a lot about muralism, mural art these days in general, because I feel like, the world is going through so many weird shifts at the moment, and the art world and the mural world and the graffiti world and like all the street art world. It's almost like street art. Nobody gives a shit about street art anymore. It's all about either graffiti or the mural art. Like who knows? Like we are very far away from the street art, which used to be like fun in 2010 or earlier. So we're way past that now. And so I've been really thinking, is it like what is not just been done, like not done much lately, but also what keeps. Because sometimes I feel like mural art is a lot of times treated like graffiti. Oh, it's a big wall. It doesn't matter. It's been done by some graffiti artists. We can paint over it because all the graffiti dies, and we paint over that too. Like, so I had the thought, it's like, what is missing? Because a lot of times we have like one big figure or a second big figure and another like photorealistic woman with tons of flowers and maybe birds and fish flying around her. And it's like, I'm like, okay. That's the most of storytelling we can mostly we will mostly see on murals. And then I was like, why are we not today doing what they did back then? And it doesn't matter if it's a religious mural in some church somewhere in Italy, or if it's the storytelling of some social like revolution in Mexico. But there is a story to be told. And I was like, okay, that's where I want to go with muralism in general. If I want to keep painting murals and keep it interesting for myself.
Yeah.
And I want to bring in many different styles I have integrated. I want to bring in every aspect of this transformational experience, and then just go mad. And like figure ways out how to bring it all into a picture which could be read in like sections, but then also is one thing together in aesthetics. So I remember I did 10 days of sketching and meditating only.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of like you were talking about early on when you were first becoming interested in art. It was comic artists that like you thought you were going to be a comic artist, and like I obviously see some parallels there with just being able to tell a story across multiple panels.
Yes.
When you're doing work like that, where you're building a larger narrative, do you have to do more in form of upfront planning? So earlier you said you didn't really do much planning. You kind of dove right in, you had the ideas and you just started working on it. Do you have to make it more refined before you start just to make sure that everything is in the right place?
Yeah, so it is again like the sweet spot and the balance, Of course, I draw and make plans, but a lot of times I don't. And then I don't want to have it like too planned out. But on certain point, I feel like I got to a point where I'm like, all right, I can do that much, just like me fucking around and like having fun and like laughing at myself by creating something directly on the mural because crazy guy, it's like I just couldn't paint this here. So this is a fun approach and a very spontaneous approach to paint murals, and just like feel that joy in the moment. It's very loose. Also, you're like surrendering to what wants to come through. I feel like that is the most attractive way of painting to me, because it's like I don't want to like have a certain plan. Sometimes a lot of times it's like this is what it's mapped out, and now I have to sit here for days and execute. That's why I love graffiti so much, because it's like da da da, fat cap here, whatever. Like here, oh, nice effect. Oh, I ran out of this. All right, and I take this. It doesn't matter. It's like see what comes out, right? And I learned so much from that I can apply what I have learned, and I'm still this is endless learning. But if I want to tell a story and make a plan on an 80 meters by 13 meters mural, where I have, I don't know, I ordered 4,000 spray cans for this project because I had no.
Wow.
So this is the thing. I had no idea where the colors were going, and I had rough ideas what I wanted to do with the colors, but I had no idea what was going on with the colors. So I had a black and white sketch of the whole thing, mapped out, but colors, no idea. Happened on the day before. I'm like, what color do I put in here? It's like this. What do I have?
That's wild.
It also puts me in the position where the pre-planning sometimes, especially with colors, the pre-planning keeps me in an understanding of things I already have learned. And then if I can't pre-plan, because I look at this, it's like, okay, I have only this here. I have this. This is what I need to work with. And that brings me in completely new places. And I have to surrender to that. It's like, all right.
It's amazing.
And then I'm like, wow, I couldn't have done that if I would have if I would have had all the other colors I would have planned before. That specific thing would have not come through.
Yeah.
So I had those 4,000 cans. I needed 900 in the end. It's fun. It's funny, but it's like 900 I wasted on this massive monster. And then all the other things were coming in. The lift there was still a construction site. So the lift was kind of like standing far away, and the lift itself was like a weird thing. Then it was April in Austria, so it was windy, it was rainy, it was cold. Then it got a little hotter, but then all of a sudden hail came in.
Ooh, wow.
I had hail several times.
Jeez.
Yeah, on section 4, on the it was I think it was 25 or 23 sections. On section 4, that was second weekend, it was just hailing, and my fingers were freezing. And then on section 5, the hydraulics of the lift just exploded. So it's came out like a fountain in the back.
Wow.
And all this toxic stuff just ran down, and I got stuck on the lift, and they had to bring in the fire department to get me off the lift. It's it's not the first time this happened, but so it's all those other and I'm just up there being a channel for whatever wants to come through, and the universe just sends me all those interesting things. I was like, you're gonna work your way through this.
It reminds me of, and I hate to tie everything back to music, but it reminds me of a Tool song about just giving into the random and just letting yourself embrace the random. And that's exactly kind of what you described, is you intentionally limit how much upfront preparation you do so that you can open yourself up to whatever comes your way in the moment.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Which band I listened to most when I painted that?
I think it's an amazing experience. You also had a show at the end of last year called Scorpio Transcendent, which I think ties into a lot of these same themes of just elevating your consciousness. So, what's up next for you? What do you have coming up? What have you been working on lately? And what does the rest of the year look like for you?
Uh, yeah. So this year has really been about this exploration of what can I do? You know, it's like I have done a bunch of like commission paintings of like pretty classical, like dissection pieces, like Jimi Hendrix, for example, or then I did another Batman piece from Michael Keaton and stuff like that. So I did that as like kind of like a warm up, you know. But then I told you, like, I did a bunch of gold stuff, and it's really like a lot about finding new ways of like okay. So when I'm saying this now, so the universe can respond to it, so it can fucking slam me with this stuff. The plan is to get a bigger studio. You know, I really need more space because I'm a muralist. Like, why do I paint tiny paintings? It makes no sense, you know?
Right.
So, but I mean, tiny, like small, now I do a bunch of smaller ones at the moment, but mainly to just, again, integrate certain ideas I have, which I haven't done yet, and I just want to try. So those are like paintings I bang out in a day. You know, like I sit down and was like, hey, wait a second, I can do a magenta bubbly skeleton inside of this orange lady, you know. It's like, so it's like, you know, and she has like, I don't know, fluorescence orange translucency. We haven't fucked with that yet. And then she has like a gold leaf halo, if you want to say so. So you know, it's like, so it's more like a technical like exploration at the moment with many things. Also, like, I've been thinking about taking contrast out as much as possible and painting skeletons inside of like low contrast, like kind of like pastel-y, like rainbow animals where you barely see the skeleton anymore, but then when you look closer, it's like still there. And then I started to do a lot of those crystalline, like I did a mural of a crystalline rainbow rabbit. It's so weird just talking about it. And then like a bunch of crystalline things. And that's like kind of like the next thing is like, I do not know where that came through, but like I started painting, and on some point it told me, it was like, look, we don't want to do the usual way of painting. Let's just do this, you know. It's like, and it's just like this crystal shapes all of a sudden coming out of me. And then I sat down and I'm like, all right, is this like something which only wants to channel through the spray can, or was it like, and then I sat down and I sketched a bunch of stuff, and like, let's see where that goes. So this is just in the development phase. So there's like let's just say I'm like on the verge of like a massive development phase where I don't really know yet where it goes to, because I feel like a ton of doors are open right now. So in completely different directions. So that's super fun. And if it's true, then there will be a show in November with those kind of like in between transition works. And because that's like this those are works which are like kind of in between defining a new style, I will call the show Tales from the Void.
Oh, wow. So that's November? Do you know where it's going to be already?
No, I don't know exactly. Yeah, it will be in Los Angeles. Okay. But let's say it's still under construction. So I'm not even sure if it's really going to happen. But I'm counting on it. And then there most likely also a thing which I don't know exactly if it's going to happen. In November, there will be a pretty big mural here in the Arts District in Los Angeles. Like maybe only half the size of the Liberation of the Soul, or not even half of the size. But I mean, like, I'm not sure when I will ever like paint another big one like that, but I'm open to it. But it's still pretty big, and you know, that's, again, I need to sit down and meditate and draw for like a week to make a plan for that. That's why it's also like it will be November, December, you know, before like somewhere in between where it's not as hot as right now and not cold and rainy. so that is like the last thing. I haven't really planned a lot. There's a lot of internal work is happening this year.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like just opening yourself up for new experiences and whatever that might be, kind of following them.
Yeah, and I let it roll. I used to push so hard. I'm kind of tired of pushing. Because every time I push and I travel and I it's almost like it feels like artistic warfare. And it's exhausting, like it's like I feel like I conquered the world, by just going from one place and paint a sick piece there, and then you barely sleep and you fly again and you paint another piece there, and then I'm kind of like I'm happy to find balance there too. I was just in Europe for 2 months, and it's been a back-to-back just graffiti and canvas work and like so much other work, and flying to Berlin and from Vienna doing more mural stuff there, and like suddenly 2 months are gone and I didn't even have a summer. So funny enough, in crazy Los Angeles, I always feel like I find a little bit of a peace moment. I have which is interesting. And I have a jacuzzi here, so I love it. So
that's probably part of it.
It's totally part of it.
Anything else that you have coming up that you want to put on people's radar? Any events, print releases, things like that?
I'm a little. I'm gonna slow down on print releases, mainly because there's weird times right now. I just had a print release, and it also, even though it was Bob Marley's Dissection, it wasn't really. Let's just say I'm used to a different pace, During COVID, after like 10 minutes, everything was gone, and now things are taking longer. And I just noticed that the world is in a place where like maybe not prints at the moment. I feel like the market might not be there right now. Let's see if it changes. I'm very much focused on studio and like paintings, and like. In that bigger painting, I want to, in the bigger studio, I want to paint much bigger paintings. So that's like museum level painting stuff. That's my goal, getting into museums. Matter of fact, I will have a museum show in Arizona in February, I believe.
Wow. Is that at Mesa?
Look at me. I have my manager. My manager knows everything. I know nothing until he gets there. I was like, wait, wait a second, I need to hook up this microphone. But it's like, if there is so much going on, and if you're really trying to surrender to so much artistic flow, it's like, you think I can handle my taxes next to it? It's not happening. It's not, it's like, and I should remember things. Like I have the hardest time with remembering names. As long as I have always say I have the graffiti sickness, because as soon as I see things written out, it's saved forever. But other than that, I have no clue. But there's this street art museum somewhere in Arizona.
Nice.
I'm sure that my manager is going to call me up after this podcast, and she'll say, remember, this is what it's called. You need to know what you're doing. I'm like, all right.
And that's sometime next year, you said?
February.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome.
I kind of have my calendar in my head, so it's like. But there will be more journeys. I'm planning to go. I think Brazil and Mexico City is back on my list, mainly out of graffiti fun journeys away from the studio, and also like just more studying whatever South American art has to, and also like. Sao Paulo is definitely a place I want to look at, but Mexico City is always great. So,
hell yeah,
that's a very I love that place. It's great. And then I don't know. It's like from that point on, we'll see. I feel like things are also like shifting and changing so quickly all the time.
Yeah,
that I might have a completely different plan in like a month.
So where can people find you online so they can like keep up with all of these new things that you're exploring?
Well, like Nychos on Instagram, of course, Rabbit Eye Movement on Instagram, Rabbit Eye Movement .com on for or .shop for the shop stuff and all the fun products we have been doing, puzzles and stuff. It's always fun to have a puzzle. Kind of like t-shirts are getting really like disappearing out of. There are barely a few left. So that's kind of like I'm out of the t-shirt business for good. I feel like at least for a while. Yeah, it's just annoying. It's just I'm saying like it's really hard to be a boss next to being an artist, right? I'm trying to only be an artist and just surround myself with boss energy.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's I would say Instagram is the best for if anyone ever wants to watch the documentary we released in 2015, The Deepest Depths of the Borrow. That's on YouTube and on Vimeo under Rabbit Eye Movement or Deepest Depths of the Borrow. I was very happy with that documentary, and I really hope I get to do another one. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe next year. Let's see how things go.
Awesome.
Like the world needs to be. The world is an interesting place right now. Let's see how things change or transform.
Awesome. So last question, and this is something that I like to ask everybody. Who is one artist that you'd like to see me have on the show?
Holy shit. Okay. Sophos.
All right, there you go.
I think Sophos is an interesting one always to talk to. We always nerd out on fun stuff from all the way from LA to Brisbane, and it's always very very interesting interaction. I've been collaborating with a lot of artists, and that just like that with working with that guy he's even my pace, but even faster, or even there's this tick 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 tick. I'm like, oh my god, like it challenges me, and I like a good challenge, and it's always a good and fun conversation too. But I mean, obviously there are a bunch of others,
and it's wild that you guys met way back in your early days, and then discovered that y'all met much later.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, it was 20 years last year. Yeah, it was in 2004. We almost got killed on a train mission. Like I thought actually that he was dead. Wow. I thought he was dead, and I just met him like 10 minutes before we started this stuff, and we were 22 back then. There's even video footage somewhere on the depths of YouTube about this whole. Yeah. So last year we kind of we got together and had a little anniversary, and we did a lot of really fun things together.
That's amazing. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. Yes,
dude, that was really fun. Interesting venture through things I haven't thought about in a long time. Well, thank you so much.
So that's it for this episode of Art Affairs. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nick. I found it really interesting how you can almost map each of the various evolutions in his style to significant events in his own life. As he's evolved as a person and had these big moments of personal growth, so too has the ideas and themes of his work evolved. It's almost as if his life is the art, and what he makes, whether it's a painting in the studio or a large-scale mural on the side of a building, they're just a channel or a frequency for tapping into that energy. I thought that was really fascinating. It was also interesting to hear how all of the developments of his styles and his techniques always start with the spray can in the streets. It's like the speed of experimentation and his own comfort with that medium allows him to explore new ideas much quicker and easier. It's like what comes natural to him. And then he'll take the best of those ideas and those techniques into the studio environment later to incorporate them into smaller scale works. I think he said that there would be like a 1 to 2 year delay from when he discovered something new in the streets to when it would make it into his studio work. But it all starts in the streets and flows from there. Definitely keep an eye out for the cool stuff that he has coming up. It sounds like there's a possibility of both a gallery show and a mural project in LA this November. If the exhibition happens, it's likely to be called Tales from the Void, and will include pieces from this transitional period that he's currently in, exploring new ideas and new ways of working. And then in February of 2026, look out for a street art-focused museum show in Arizona. I'm not too sure if that's going to be in Mesa. That was the first thing that came to mind. Shout out to buddy Frank Gonzalez. But wherever it is, be sure to follow Nychos' and Rabbit Eye Movement's Instagram to get all the latest details. So thanks again to Nick for joining me today, and thank you for checking out the show. I'm truly grateful for your support, and that you chose to come back and listen after such a long break. It really means a lot. As always, you can contact me through my website at artafairspodcast.com or on Instagram at artafairspodcast. So until next time, be good to yourself and be good to each other.